Volgens mij is dit de eerste keer dat ik gewoon helemaal in mijn eentje in de Indiekings studio zit. Niemand is er om met me te babbelen. En nou ja, dat is ook eigenlijk helemaal niet erg. Want ik heb namelijk een Indiekings aflevering opgenomen toen ik in LA was. We waren daar natuurlijk, heb je alles kunnen volgen. De livestream, de items, nou ja, zo'n beetje alles E3 hebben we al laten zien. Behalve dit ene dingetje. Nou ja, dingetje, het was toch eigenlijk wel een groot ding. Ik heb namelijk een interview gedaan met Scott Alexander. En hij is een narrative designer, zou je kunnen zeggen. Of een games writer. Het is maar net hoe je het bekijkt. Voor Shadow Warrior. En hij heeft aan meerdere Devolver projecten gewerkt. Zeer, Sam 3 ook onder andere. En nou ja, we waren daar op de Devolver stand. Het zijn allemaal van die toffe trailers waar je een beetje kan barbecuen, lekker eten kan halen. Nou ja, de hele E3 zat er zo'n beetje op, dus we zaten daar uitgeblust en ineens kwam ik Scott tegen. En ik vond het zo fascinerend met hoeveel passie hij over zijn werk praatte. Vooral ook omdat je natuurlijk, nou ja, je bent als gameschrijver, ja, moet je een andere positie innemen in een team. Dus waar je als schrijver bij bijna elk medium eigenlijk de leidraad bent voor wat er gaat gebeuren. Het verhaal definieert vaak wat er verder gedaan wordt. Dus bij film is dat zo. Ja, natuurlijk als je een boek schrijft, is wat jij schrijft is het product. En bij games moet je vaak wat meer, nou ja, moet je anders te werk gaan. Je zit nog met technische mogelijkheden. Je zit nog met nou ja, de richting van een game director. Dus iemand die echt over de gameplay gaat. En ik was gewoon heel gefascineerd hoe, nou ja, hoe Scott zijn weg daarin had gevonden. Dus nou ja, ik heb gewoon lekker daarover met hem gepraat. Op de E3 in een trailer. En dat kan je nu hier zien.
Yeah, that's right. New Indiekings internationally. We're here in LA and we're sitting at the Devolver trailer park right in front of E3. And whenever I get the honor to talk to an international guest, of course I will. So this time I've brought you along.
It's me.
Yeah, who are you? What do you do?
Scott Alexander. I am a video game writer for Shadow Warrior 2. We're showing Shadow Warrior 2 here at the show at the Devolver booth.
Yes, and I'm quite interested in your story because, first of all, you're a video game writer.
That's right.
Which is not a profession a lot of people have.
That more and more, though.
Yeah, more and more, that's true. But also your project, I think, is very interesting in the way you guys work together. But of course, we're going to look at a little trailer to see what Shadow Warrior is all about.
Oh, great. You've got the trailer?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's go.
I used to have it all. Then I fucked up and saved the world. I managed to hold on to a few things. My ride, some of my sharper toys. But the world wants it all. Out here, you live by the gun. But you can still die by the sword. I say hold on to both, just in case. The world doesn't want to be saved. It wants to eat you alive. So this time, I'm bringing some friends along. Rise up and fight! Who wants some way?
Okay, so we know what Shadow Warriors is now, but let's zoom out a little bit and start with your career. Like,
Okay.
how did you get into the industry? What did you do?
I had your job.
You had my job.
I was a journalist
Okay.
for a long time. I still do work as a journalist occasionally, but I was particularly in the video games industry journalism. So,
Cool. And when was that?
From about the late 90s until about 3 years ago.
Cool.
So I worked at Playboy magazine. I covered video games for them. I don't know if you ever saw the Girls of Gaming segments. That was my baby.
Okay, cool.
Right? I like to have fun with video games.
Yeah.
But I've been playing video games since I was a little kid. It was a really impactful thing on me. My first video game was Space Invaders. And just from that, even that moment, like, there's narrative there. Like, people are trying to destroy Earth. I need to stop them. They're invading from space. So, you know, I played video games the entire time growing up. I was kind of a nerd kid into computers and all these other things. But my favorite games growing up were Infocom games, the text adventures.
Wow.
Zork and Planetfall and all these things. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it just got me so turned on to story. And then I felt that I went through a period where I felt a little bit alienated from games, where I felt like story wasn't as important. There was kind of a period in the maybe late 80s, early 90s, and I was like, I'm not getting the stories that I want out of these games, the richness. And then that kind of came back. That kind of turned around. Games Odyssey, Munch's Odyssey, all those LucasArts games.
Yeah, got way more world building, etc.
So I came at it as a journalist. I met a lot of people in the industry, and finally decided I've got to get involved with this. I got to know the guys who run Devolver. They hired me to write, actually, Serious Sam 3 was the first game that I did.
Cool.
Did that script. And then that worked out well, and they brought me in actually at the very beginning of Shadow Warrior to do the full story design, creating the world, rebooting. Here we have an old franchise we want to reboot. This is a dream.
That's great. Yeah. So did you have any passion for like the old franchise?
Sure. I mean, I played Duke Nukem religiously, and it's by the same guy. So it's basically the follow-up game to Duke Nukem. Was this game Shadow Warrior, which had a different... It's not a sequel, but it was the next game that studio made.
And it's the same engine.
It's the same engine. It plays the same. It's fast. It's over the top. It's bawdy.
It's funny. I remember as a kid, because actually we're not as different. I have 2 jobs, actually 3, but I'm actually a game designer myself.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and this is something I do as well. But I remember, like, I didn't mod a lot of games, but I kind of blended like Duke Nukem and Shadow Warrior, because it was really easy to like swap files,
to swap
and
palettes, swap textures, right?
Get your other characters in. It was really a lot of fun. But
those games had level editors too. You could go in and edit them. Like, and I was doing that back with Load Runner. And those games way back when.
Oh wow!
Like, that stuff really activates people and gets them excited.
Ah, great. So okay, so right now your job. I can't imagine any of the viewers can imagine what you do on a daily basis. Like starting on this project, Shadow Warriors. How do you begin? What do you do? What's your role?
So a year ago, we started coming up with the ideas for this. So my co-writer and I, Sławek is in Poland at Flying Wild Hog. And starting about a year ago, we would get on Skype every day. We'd get up in the morning and spend between an hour and 2 hours just talking about what we wanted to do. And at the beginning, it's rough.
Yeah.
Like, because you made the story, you tied it up, and the better you do at making a good dramatic story, the harder it is to make a sequel to it. Because you're like, well, I finished.
The story is told. So how do you
the nature
continue?
of the business is you want to make sequels. So, but our first instinct was like, we need to create a kind of fresh slate. The worst thing we would want to do is just, here's a little more of the same, or here's a little, we really wanted to do something really different. So we kind of, you saw the demo, we kind of destroyed the world again.
Yeah. You nuked it and you started it over.
Created a blank slate a little bit for ourselves, which helps.
Yeah.
But we started coming up with ideas, throwing ideas out there. Where's the protagonist? What is he doing now? What happened in intervening time? When are we going to set it? We decided to set it 5 years after the events, after this apocalypse. We just wanted it to be extreme, something you couldn't see in real life, something, why are we making it a video game if we could shoot it as a movie?
So that's pretty cool. You basically went back to like the core of what you wanted with the franchise. You just established like the core values of what you wanted to do.
Well, of what we wanted in terms of story.
Yeah.
And it was really important to us on the first game that we had actual, well-realized characters who had real motivations that change over the course of the story, that have an emotional, actual narrative arc there.
Yeah.
That was incredibly important to us, and that's what, it was funny, we were going like, well, of course you should do that, and then the feedback we got was, oh my God, you put that in a game? We were like, well, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
And so staying true to that narrative, saying we're really going to put a real story in here, and luckily I work with these guys, and they're badasses.
Yeah.
It's 35 guys on that first game.
Yeah.
35 guys.
35
in 2
Polish
years
guys
made that first Shadow Warrior.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. They made their own engine and everything else. So I have the luxury of working with these guys who are incredibly devoted to their craft, and incredibly good, and they come out of these big studios in Poland as a whole.
Yeah, because I can imagine if you're a viewer, you think like, oh yeah, of course he says that about his colleagues, but really, I think it's a big challenge for you to work with a team that's in Europe somewhere for you, like you're in New York and they're all the way in Poland, and they need to adapt your ideas. They need to work hard to realize whatever you want to tell. You know, they got to build it basically.
Yep.
And they were all up for that. You could always.
Absolutely. Well, on the first game also, there was a co-writer in Poland also, and so they're in the studio. They're managing the day. We come up with a cuckoo idea, and then sometimes we go, oh, that's amazing. And but how do we do it in the game? It's going to drive you nuts. And so he can walk over and go, is this going to drive you nuts? And sometimes they go, yeah, don't do that. You can't do that. Or sometimes they go, oh, like one thing we put in the world, like the world is the human and demon world merged. If you played the first game, and so this new environment is very, very different. And we said, as part of the lore, what if the world was changing all the time?
Okay.
So like it's a video game.
Yeah.
If you go someplace and you go back again, the environment changes, and the geography changes. Sławek went to them and was like, what if we made the geometry of the level change every time you went back? And at first they were like, get out of here. Like, leave us alone. A week later, they came back and they went, we decided that was an amazing idea. And we think we can design a system around that. And it ended up being this procedural level system which generates new levels of it. Like, so
it's crazy.
Some of the stuff like that happens.
Cool. And I heard you talk about like real emotional characters that mean something. So maybe as an example, could you tell us a quality of the Shadow Warrior games and maybe some quality that's lacking in other games for us to understand the value of your work in that sense?
Well, every game, has different needs. You don't have to tell an emotional story in every game.
No.
A game like Civilization doesn't need that. It can be a fantastic game. Occasionally, I need story to pull me through stuff. The thing I love about games is it serves such a giant array. There's room for everybody. Yeah. And some people play Shadow Warrior and they skip every story. Combat, because the combat's super fun.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's fine. If that's what they want. Yeah, no.
Cool.
People who want to see the story should see the story. Then I'm happy. That's great.
Yeah.
People who don't want to see the story, I don't want to torture someone with story if they don't want it. A lot of people don't want story in their games. That's fine. I do. Yeah. And so it's there for them if they want it. It's like we put grind in this game. I don't like to grind. A lot of people love to grind. We put in grind and we tried to make it really interesting with the procedural stuff.
Cool. Is sound okay, Jelle? Yeah, okay. Maybe hold your mic.
Yeah, but sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay.
I'm just monitoring it constantly. Yeah, this is okay. I can level it.
Okay, cool. So going back to like this quality, is there a certain quality of the story that you are proud of? Did you say, yeah, I think we got something there in Shadow Warriors?
We made a sad story. And it starts out not sad. It starts out like a goofy cop buddy comedy with a lot of over-the-top jokes. The main character's name is Lo Wang. There's a lot of jokes about anatomy in the game. We just went over the top, and Devolver is like, go over the top, please.
Because I heard, one of the sentences, well, I can't recall exactly, but it was like, I don't know, there's a lot of cursing and
but it was just, you just say, write whatever is correct. Yeah. Don't worry about we're making it for grown-ups, they can handle it, right? Yeah. So we started from this really bawdy, goofy place because that's what the original game is like. Yeah. And then we were able to turn it into a story with real emotional heft. I talk to people who say they cry playing this game. Now, this is a game where you chop demons into little pieces. If you can make someone cry in that game, that's an achievement. That's probably my proudest thing about Shadow Warriors, that we told a story that's actually quite sad. It's filled with sort of issues of shame and longing and regret and memory and love and hate and families.
And do you also feel like there's usually I feel that when a game story irritates me, it's because the mechanics and the story don't blend well. There's a certain, for instance, if I'm a real good guy, but I do have to chop guys' head off. Right. That's weird. That already puts the story apart.
Oh, you're the hero. That's why you shot all those guys in the head.
Yeah, that's why you just killed 500 characters.
Totally.
Okay, sure.
Right, like you were a mass murderer. You understand that, In this case, like one thing I think that helped us on Shadow Warrior was there was a demon invasion of Earth going on.
Yeah.
Most of the people you kill in that game are not people; they're demons who
yeah.
are invading Earth and killing humans. So you're
Yeah.
defending human life actually through the whole game. You're killing monsters. That helps with the dissonance.
Certainly.
But that's a tough thing. It's
Yeah.
like part of the gameplay loop is to kill people. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to go there. Sometimes you have to say, that's what this guy does. And
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't make any sense, but that's okay. In this case, it makes sense. He's a trained assassin who gets caught up in a demon invasion.
Yeah.
It's very important to me to try to tie those things down, to
Yeah.
have those things actually tie back to some meaning in the story.
And do you ever feel like you have to interfere with gameplay decisions? That you feel like, okay, right now the gameplay team maybe wants something, and you feel like, maybe change a little bit because otherwise, story might go wacky or.
Sure, there's
vice
back and
versa.
forth there. I mean, luckily, these guys are just really focused on making it fun. Those two things haven't really been so much at odds.
Okay.
Occasionally, we'll come up with something that's insane.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they're like, no.
So it's
Like-
it's more of the communication, more the other way around. That you provide incentive for new gameplay mechanics.
Ideally, yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
And how did your work as a journalist influence the quality of your writing for games?
I just saw so many games and played so many games. And I think that kind of constant exposure to it was really helpful. I came to it from a point. I got into the games business. I was a journalist already. And
Yeah.
I was inching my way
Yeah,
over into
yeah.
the games coverage, so that I could do something I love. So I was already doing it on my own, playing this stuff on my own. Was getting pulled by this stuff and wanting to go do profiles on people doing that. I went and did a profile on Tim Schafer.
Oh,
spent
cool.
a week at Double Fine, and
Oh, great.
it was like the dream come true.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
This is one of my
You
idols.
can learn a lot from him. Yeah.
Exactly, and so I used it as kind of a sneaky way to educate myself. on
Ah,
how to
cool.
make games by going and hanging out with
And
a lot
did
of
you?
developers.
I know, for instance, that the creator of Gunpoint also was a journalist, and he wrote for PC Mag for quite some time. And he was like irritated, for example, with spawn points. It's like, why do some games have spawn points with like 5 minutes gameplay in between at least?
Right.
And he made sure that when he created a game, that would never happen. Do you have kind of, stuff like that you are bothered by games you were writing about in the past, or?
For me, a
certain
lot of it had to
elements?
do with narrative. A
Yeah.
lot of it had to do with an ungrounded character. You're like, I mean, like I love Duke Nukem, but you're
Yeah.
like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
Why is he doing this?
Who
like,
are you?
like, there's no setup at all. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
So, but like, I felt like it had some sort of promising starts at narrative, and I kind of went, oh, if he just did
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
like if you could. Tie
Can
it
you
all
give
back.
one example? What would Duke need to?
Duke needs an origin.
Yeah.
We don't know where he comes from.
Yeah.
He needs a reason why he's quoting all these movies all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
he grew up, his dad used to take him to the movies all the
Yeah.
time. They'd go see the tough guy movies. Then his dad was killed by aliens, and now he's on a
Yeah.
rampage to avenge his. And that's why he's quoting it every time he kills an alien. I'll just quote a 80s action movie at you because that's what my poor dad
This
dad
does
used to do."
actually
See
you.
that?
It gets me excited. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
for
then
sure.
it means
fits.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Then
That's
all
cool.
the bloodshed, actually, there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
So.
it's satisfying. Nice, nice. I hope whoever's making Duke right now is listening. So.
It's Gearbox now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I hope
they're gonna
they,
do good things with it.
Yeah. I trust.
Oh,
so
dude! I mean, Borderlands is an amazing story.
Yeah, I know, but they made some crap in the past as well, so can never be sure. But yeah, and I trust the next Duke will be amazing though. But so, do you know anything that's from your perspective that you want to achieve? Like, do you have any ambition for the next games you're working on, or could you give an example of something you're really proud of? For the coming games.
Well, what we did in this game really was amp up everything that was good in the last game. So
Yeah.
the programmers, a big piece of that fell to them of like expanding the weapon system, making the engine better, making the lighting better.
Yep.
But what we were able to do is instead of it being that 90s structure of a linear thing going forward, we made a non-linear structure where we have a main quest and side quests and even sub quests and these other things. And we were able to tell some weird side quests are fascinating because when you're designing the game, you're going, okay, what do people have to know?
Yeah.
They have to know this.
They need a
here's the
certain
end,
knowledge.
right?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to make a quest you don't have to do. So there's nothing in this can be essential to the story,
Yeah.
right? And yet, we still want it to be interesting. So, but how do you do that without making it essential?
Yeah.
So, interesting, but not essential is a
Okay.
weird thing to say.
Yeah,
So
how
it's
did you
these
tackle this?
ancillary pieces of content. Well, we went and looked at what do we want to talk about, and it ended up being, even though this is a messed up version of our world, we were like, this is a great canvas for telling stories about our world, the world we're living in now, right? So we have some sort of allegorical stories that are happening that, I don't want to kind of give away too much story. We're not talking about it yet, but there's characters in this world that have very clear parallels to characters in our world, and we're kind of making some points about that, and we were able to kind of make some statements, which is nice.
Nice. I always, if there's nothing else you want to share about the game or your profession, then I want to go to 2 closing questions. I always
Go
ask.
ahead.
The first one is, there are a lot of people watching, I'm sure, that want to get into the industry,
Okay.
and maybe even want to become a games writer. Do you have any
Sure.
tips for them?
Play narrative games, figure out when you get mad, figure out why you're getting mad. Join Twitter,
Yeah.
not because it's a social media thing, but because it makes you write really, really, really short.
Oh, yeah.
I've compared game writing to being the Twitter of narrative, because a lot of the times the games we're making,
Yeah.
you play for half an hour,
Yeah.
and you get 1 minute of dialogue.
Yeah.
Then you play for another half hour,
You
you
have
get
to
another minute
tell-
of dialogue.
Yeah.
Shadow Warrior 1 has about 45 minutes of like cutscenes.
Yeah.
So if you watch it all together in a row, it'd be 45 minutes, but it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it's this very weird kind of writing. It's very different than writing TV,
Yeah,
very different than
yeah,
writing
yeah.
movies. You're writing a tiny bit that can then sustain you for a while before you get another tiny bit. So it's this almost haiku mindset of like,
Yeah.
so you take these character motivations. We take 6 months figuring out the world, the characters, what's the story, and then we had to break it down into teeny chunks.
Be very concise about
Exactly.
what you communicate.
Right, but
Cool.
that Twitter idea of like, let's get it down into 140 characters, sort of a helpful
We
skill.
want to see you on Twitter, game writers. Game writers to be. Cool.
Goed, dat was dus het interview en spontaan gefilmd. Je zag het ook, Jelle die zat een beetje zo onstabiel, kon hij zijn camera nog net vasthouden in die kleine trailer. En wat ik eigenlijk, nou ja, je hebt het wel vaker gezien tijdens de Indiekings de laatste tijd. Ik stel ze af en toe ook de vraag aan mensen, wat is een project waar je heel erg trots op bent? Of wat herinner je nog, of wat is in elk geval significant voor je? En dat doe ik eigenlijk omdat dan vaak naar boven komt, ja, waar mensen echt wat om geven en wat mensen echt vet vinden aan hun werk. Bovendien hebben we de tip natuurlijk al heel vaak voorbij zien komen. Dus de andere vraag, heb je nog tips? Ga gewoon games maken. Dus dat lijkt me inmiddels wel duidelijk. Die andere vraag stelde ik dus ook even aan Scott. Jelle had helaas net even de camera uitgezet. Kon hem niet snel genoeg weer klaar krijgen, zodat je ook mij de vraag ziet stellen. Maar ik vond het antwoord van Scott zo mooi dat we het hierna toch nog even willen laten zien. Dus hier komt het antwoord van Scott op mijn vraag. Is er iets waar je trots op bent of wat je wilt noemen? Of is er een project waar je nu aan moet denken wat je met ons wilt delen?
We did a 10th anniversary of 9/11 issue. So
wow.
we basically devoted the entire issue to this, telling the stories of the photographers that shot the World Trade Center disaster. We ended up getting just a massive amount, even though we gave the whole issue over to it.
Yeah.
We had so much more than we could use. So we created an iPad app that has all of it in it.
Wow.
It's a massive thing. All the photographers gave us their photos for free.
Yeah.
And we put the app out for free. It's still up in the App Store. It's called
Wow.
9/11 9/11 The Photographer's Stories.
Cool.
It's heartbreaking and
Yeah.
very, very, very sad, but it's the thing I'm most proud of that I've ever done, except for maybe Shadow Warrior.
That's a really
Very
cool
different
story.
kind of project.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing.
Yep.
Thanks. Cool. Well, I really hope that we get to talk again sometime in the future.
Definitely.
It's been really interesting, and I want to thank you.
Absolutely,
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.